I would certainly say we accomplished something today. Hey guys, it's Brian at Sign Me Up Designs again, and today we're jumping back on the 2007 Harley Davidson Sportster Dual 26 board tracker build. This is a project that we've been working on for a little bit now, and today is kind of a milestone event for what's going on with this build. We're going to stretch the swing arm, and we're going to get the rear 26 mounted up and kind of mocked up and see what it looks like. I lost a little bit of the footage explaining that, so I'm re-recording this intro to show you what we're going to do today. So we're also going to clean up the chrome on the rocker cover, the primary cover, the belt cover, and things like that. We're going to clean it up using a Quad Zero SOS Scotch-Brite / Brillo pad. And it turns out amazing. And I lost all the footage doing it, so the footage you're going to jump into is when it's actually done. But all it took was a little bit of elbow grease. It didn't take any kind of chemicals, didn't take any soap. It was just straight elbow grease and that Quad Zero steel wool, and it really transformed the way this chrome looked. And to be honest, I know I talked about powder coating that thing, but I think I'm going to leave it all chrome. It looks really, really good with the chrome and black wheels. So we'll jump into that part of the video, and you guys can check it out for yourself. Y'all check that out. God dang, that whiskey. All right, so you can see that was a drastic improvement from what it was. We're still going to take this valve cover or rocker cover off. I got some pitting right here too, but not too worried about that. I might kind of see what that looks like after it's all clean and everything, and make the assessment from there. If not, I can get a new rocker cover that's not pitted for about $100. We'll leave that alone for now. But man, this is the cover we got to take off. There's a little bit of oil leak at the lower rocker cover gasket, so got to pull them off eventually anyway. Front one's fine. Turned out pretty good. But gosh, y'all, just a little elbow grease and some SOS pad, and that looks 1,000 times better. All right, let's pull the rear wheel. Axle out, brakes are down. It's time to pull the swing arm off. Okay, we are moving along here. We got the swing arm off, and what I did to get this thing to stretch 3 inches is I bought another swing arm. This is one for an older, I think like 03, 04 Sportster. So it's got a different axle slide here than the one from the 07, which is the more oval shape. But the rest of the swing arm is exactly the same. The pivot point distance between the inside of the pivot point is exactly the same. The only difference is the swing arm for the 07, the one off the bike, is a 1-inch axle, and this is a 3/4 inch axle. So it's not a bad thing, because I wasn't sure what the wheels were going to take, and the wheels actually take a 1-inch axle. So we can reuse the axle blocks from the original swing arm, but we can use the metal off of the donor swing arm to use the 3 inches that we need for the extension. So that being said, what I'll have to do is cut the swing arm and I want to make just one weld instead of taking a 3-inch block out of here. I think what I'm going to do is cut the swing arm on this one 3 inches down, and then use the same cut on that one. I'll figure it out, but you'll see kind of how it works out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do butt welds, which is just where you put the 2 pieces of metal together, bevel the edges, and weld all around it. And then I'm going to come back with some fish plate and do like a fish plate weld brace on maybe the inside and the outside on each one of them. So next thing to do is just start cutting some metal. Also, one more thing, to keep the trueness of the distance between each axle, I'm going to take this piece of metal and weld it across here and here. So just kind of tack weld it into place. That way the axles stay in line with each other, and I don't have to worry about them being off or, you know, cutting exactly the correct way. So once once I tack these on, the distance between the two axle blocks aren't going to change, and then I can cut the swing arm without having to worry about these shifting positions. Guys, we were there. We needed 23 inches and 23.5 inches overall length from the tip of the pivot to the back of the axle block, and we are right there where we need it to be. So we've officially stretched this thing. We haven't welded it yet, but we've stretched it out 3 inches over stock. The original measurement from the tip of the pivot point to the tip of the axle block here was 20.5. So what I did was I measured 3 inches back, or excuse me, 5 inches back, no, 8 inches back from here to this cut on the original swing arm, and measured 5 inches back from the tip of the old swing arm axle block to the donor swing arm here. And that 3-inch difference is what gave us the 3-inch stretch. So that being said, we will only have one butt weld to make on each side. So we're moving right along. This thing looks excellent. The cuts look really nice. There's a little bit more of a gap here, but we can easily fill that up with the old MIG welder here. So all right, let's bevel these edges so we can get some good penetration when we weld, and let's go ahead and get these things welded up. Oh yeah, one more thing I didn't mention. Obviously the bottom mount for the shocks have moved back 3 inches as well, which is not a big deal because, like I said, we're running air shocks on this thing, so I wanted to sit it lower down anyway. It's going to give the shock a little bit more of an angle versus the factory angle on it, but I don't think that's going to be too big of a problem. If it is, it's not a big deal. I can just cut these little shock mounts off and move them back if I need to. It's not a huge deal, but I'm gonna see what it looks like beforehand, because if it looks low enough where I like it, I will just keep it. But if not, you know, easy fix. We'll just move those little shock mounts back a little bit. No problem. So I definitely lost some of the welding footage for some reason, but we just got the swing arm all finished up, and it actually turned out really nice. I'm going to grind these welds down and use a little fish plate, which I made this little cardboard template here. I'm going to make some, here we go, make some templates, some little fish plates out of this piece of 1/8 inch steel bar here, and I'm going to make them out of steel, and then once we grind this weld smooth, I'm going to plate this over the inside and outside of the welds right here, just to give it a little bit more stability. This probably doesn't need to be that way. I think it'll be solid enough, but it will make me feel a lot better if I do it that way. And when I grind this down, I can see how good a penetration I got as well. So that's it. I put the swing arm on the bike, and it looks really good. It fits up perfectly. The axle goes through. We even put the new wheel on the back of it, which we're not going to show you that just yet. But it fits on there really nice, and it looks killer. It turned out pretty good. I've already ground down the welds a little bit on this swing arm, and the great news is it got really good penetration. Now, I don't think we would 100% need these fish plates, but for my safety, I'm going to go ahead and do them. And this is kind of what they're going to look like before I get them welded up there. It was just a little piece of 1/8 inch steel. You can see how thick it is there, and it's just going to provide a little bit more reinforcement for the up and down motion of the swing arm. So, you know, the swing arm takes a lot of abuse from, you know, bumps in the road and the acceleration and things like that. So this is just going to, you know, give me a little bit of peace of mind when it comes to getting this swing arm nice and secure. And one more thing, guys, I have never claimed to be a master fabricator. This is definitely just a hobby for me. So I think given my tools and abilities, these are gonna turn out pretty good. I'm happy with the way they turned out, but for all you professionals out there, don't judge me. Well, you probably will judge me, but leave your comment down below. All right, guys, well, unfortunately, the footage of all the welding and grinding is corrupt or lost. I just can't find it. So the footage you just saw was me tacking the swing arm together. Then I moved it over to the vise, and I fish plate braced everything as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the wheels. These are the wheels we're gonna be using for the project, and they're pretty cool wheels. All right, so here they are. They are a 60 spoke Ultima wheel, and this is the box they came in, 2 big old 26-inch boxes. And these are actually wheels for a touring style Harley, so like a Street Glide or a Road King, Road Glide, something like that. One of the ones you see with the big front wheel baggers. But they are, I think they were like $300 for the wheel. Each wheel, the tires were additional like 100 and something. And then I ended up putting tubes in it too. I'll put a little video in here of those getting put on. My buddy hooked me up at my old job and he put those wheels on for me. So here's a couple interesting things about these wheels. They are both the same exact wheel, and they each have holes drilled in each side of the hub for dual rotor Road Kings, or like I said, Road Glides, Street Glides, whatever, which is fine on the front. The front will work. However, the back, it will not work. The front wheel itself, only on the Sportster at least, only has one rotor. That's the old wheel. Just one rotor, no rotor on the other side. So to make this look good, what I've done is I have 3D printed a spacer, because if not, it would look kind of open and raw like this. So I 3D printed out of black carbon fiber just a trim ring, basically to take up the gap beside the hub, so it kind of sits flush. And I just used some, little Allen bolt deals there. So I think it kind of cleans it up a little bit better. I might change these to a flathead bolt. These are a kind of a beveled Allen, but I've got extra bolts left over after all this. I might change them out. So anyway, we got really lucky. The front brake rotor bolts up just fine. It will fit right on top of this hub. It's the same size diameter. Everything's great. The thread pitch is exactly the same. However, since both of these wheels are exactly the same, we had to modify the rear wheel a little bit. Now, I try to do everything in-house. This is one of the things I decided to source out, because it kind of takes some precision, and if I screw it up, I'm screwing up a pretty expensive wheel. So this is the rotor bolt for the rear wheel that came off of the Sportster. So as you can see, it does not fit. So I probably could have run a different rotor in the back, but just to save some time and effort, I decided to go ahead and drill these out to accept the bigger rotor, or to accept the factory rotor. And what I did was, I think that's the sprocket side, yeah. So I had a machine shop come out and drill these same holes out to where the new or the old rotor will fit right on this wheel. So that's a good thing. More importantly, I had the same machine shop drill out the other side for the sprocket bolts. So now they fit in perfect. Again, this is what it would have been if I hadn't drilled them out. The pattern is, oh Jesus, there we go. The pattern is exactly the same as far as the width between the holes. It bolts up just, perfect. But now we can use the factory hardware, and we can use the chain sprocket for the chain conversion, and it will bolt right on. One more thing, guys. I got super lucky when it came to running these wheels. The width between the hubs, between the outside hub and outside hub here, is exactly the same on the rear wheel from the Sportster. I think it was like 6 inches or 8 inches wide, I can't remember, but it was exactly the same diameter. So that means we should be able to run the same spacers and everything that come with this sprocket conversion kit. Now in the front, we're doing even better because the wide glide kit that we use to put on comes with a wider axle. This is the wider axle. Nope, this is the wider axle to set up with the front axle. So you can see the difference in the length there. So this axle will fit perfectly into those wheels because this is made for a wide glide conversion. So you can run a wide glide wheel on this, which is the same diameter as this wheel, oddly enough. So things are really working out so far with how these wheels are machined, and you know, that kind of just shows you how universal a lot of the stuff Harley makes, and you know, at least in the aftermarket world, will kind of work with each other. So next step, let's get the rear wheel put on. We're still waiting on the stem for the triple tree kit, and that'll be here in a couple days. So for now, we can go ahead and mount everything up to the rear wheel and see what it looks like on the back of the bike. One more thing too, I think I'm going to spend a little bit extra money. I didn't want to do this at first. I wanted to reuse the factory looking rotors, but I don't think I can do that to this bike. It might put me a little bit over budget, but I can find a nice set of rotors that will match the rear sprocket or the rear chain sprocket, or maybe like a spoke style rotor versus the factory rotor. That's the factory rotor. And although it will work, I'm not a huge fan of how that looks up against that wheel. Number one, it's old. Number two, it's just the style's a little bit different. So I think I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and buy a different rotor. But whatever, that's might put us over, but I don't care. It's gonna look better. All right, so now that you know what the wheels look like, I can go ahead and show you what the swing arm turned out. This is how we did it. This is the two swing arms together. We smoothed the top off like that, and I've built up the welds around the top so it's nice and secure. And then I used this fish plate brace with a little cardboard template. I cut these out and made it work, and it's fish plated on the inside and the outside. I was worried about the support of just the butt welds, so you know, it might be a little bit overkill, but I went ahead and fish plated it as well. I was also worried about the brake caliper sits on top of the swing arm right here, but I did double check and it does work. It slides in there just fine, even with the fish plate behind it. So that's where we are now. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of all the welding, but you know, it is what it is. I would certainly say we accomplished something today. All right guys, so in the next video, we're gonna tackle this Vulcan Motorworks front end conversion kit, the wide glide front conversion kit. I finally got all the parts in that I needed. We ran into a couple issues, but you'll have to stay tuned for the next video to see what happened with that. The swing arm's all done, the chain conversion's all done, it's ready to go. So everything looks good. I did order some new rotors for the front and rear, so they should match really nice, and it's gonna make me happy. But they look really good, and we'll show you those whenever they come in too. If you haven't already, follow me on Instagram. It's _Brian Rogers. On Instagram, I post pictures before I post videos, so you can kind of get some before the action still shots and a video every now and then of what it looks like and how it's gonna look in the next episode. So stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. That way you get updates on the new videos and you can kind of follow along in this build. If you've watched the first 2 videos so far, you're the best. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for following this build, and thank you for being a part of this community. We'll see you in the next one.